Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. In Afghanistan, the US says at least 5 rockets have been intercepted by the anti-missile system over the Kabul airport. It comes a day after the US military carried out a drone strike on an ISIS vehicle on the way to Kabul airport, killing 2 militants. International media quoted locals as saying at least 9 members of a family, including 6 children, were killed in the strike. A Taliban spokesman condemned the US for failing to inform the group before ordering the strike. The UN nuclear watchdog says North Korea appears to have restarted its Yongbyon plutonium-producing reprocessing nuclear reactor. In a report, International Atomic Energy Agency said the reactor has been discharging cooling water since July, suggesting it is operational. This comes as nuclear talks between Pyongyang and Washington remain stalled. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed 3 explosive-laden drones launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels towards southern Saudi Arabia. In a statement, the coalition said the rebels attempted to target Khamis Mushayt city in the latest strike. This comes a day after the Houthis killed at least 30 Yemeni soldiers in an airstrike on a military base. New Zealand has reported the country's first death linked to Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. Meanwhile, 1 million more Moderna vaccine shots have been withdrawn as a contaminant was found in Japan. In Pakistan, 66 more people lost their lives to the virus and 3,800 tested positive in the last 24 hours. Globally, the coronavirus death toll has surpassed 4.5 million, while the caseload has reached over 216 million. And in football, Lionel Messi made his Paris Saint-Germain debut as a 66th minute substitute in a 2-0 win at Reims in Ligue 1. It was the first club game of his career for a team other than Barcelona. Kylian Mbappé scored both goals for the winning team on what could be his final appearance for the club. These were the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the US says at least 5 rockets have been intercepted by the anti-missile system over the Kabul airport. No casualties have been reported as of yet. Threats of further ISIS attacks on the airport have been increasing as the US races to complete its withdrawal by 31st of August. Witnesses say rockets were fired from a car in Khair Khana area. President Biden was briefed on the attack and was informed that operations at the airport were not interrupted. President Biden also attended a ceremony where the bodies of 13 US soldiers killed in the Kabul airport attack arrived at the Delaware's air base. Early on Sunday, the US military carried out a preemptive drone strike on an ISIS vehicle on the way to Kabul airport, killing 2 militants. A Central Command spokesman, Captain Bill Urban, says the military is investigating whether civilians were killed in the attack. International media quoted locals as saying at least 9 members of a family, including 6 children, were killed in the strike. The Taliban have condemned US strikes in Kabul, saying that it is illegal to carry out arbitrary attacks and kill civilians. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council is holding an emergency meeting on the Afghan situation today. Meanwhile, Pakistan's National Security Advisor Moeed Yusuf says the US left a security vacuum in Afghanistan in the 90s, which was filled by the Al-Qaeda. Talking to reporters, Yusuf added Pakistan has been facing cross-border terrorism for 20 years. He said Afghans came to Pakistan to escape US airstrikes. Yusuf said Islamabad is now being asked to host more Afghan refugees, which may include ISIS or the banned TTP militants. Meanwhile, Pakistan's international airlines will carry WHO medical supplies from Islamabad to Mazar-e-Sharif today. while 75 Pakistani nationals and their families will be evacuated from Kabul through Torkham border. Now, China says it is necessary for all parties to engage with the Taliban and guide them actively. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi made the remarks during a phone conversation with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Wang warned that the hasty withdrawal of West is likely to provide an opportunity for the resurgence of terrorist organizations in Afghanistan. He urged the U.S. to work with the international community to provide the war-torn country with urgently needed assistance. Meanwhile, Blinken said the UN should clearly convey that the world expects the Taliban to safely evacuate foreign citizens. He also expressed his understanding and respect for Beijing's concerns on issues related to Afghanistan. Now, the European Union says it needs a rapid reaction force to prevent future crises such as in Afghanistan. In an interview, Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said the European Union needed to accelerate efforts to build a common defence policy. Reportedly, the bloc also seeks to prevent more uncontrolled large-scale illegal migration from Afghanistan. Meanwhile, German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas says Uzbekistan is ready to help Germany with Afghanistan evacuations. The list includes German citizens, local Afghan staff and at-risk groups such as human rights activists and journalists. Maas is on a trip to Turkey, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Pakistan and Qatar, among others, to find ways to evacuate these people. Moreover, Russian military is carrying out drills in Tajikistan amid instability in the neighboring Afghanistan. Now, the UN nuclear watchdog says North Korea appears to have restarted its Yongbyon plutonium reproducing nuclear reactor. In a report, the International Atomic Energy Agency said the reactor has been discharging cooling water since July, suggesting it is operational. The IAEA called the development deeply troubling and a clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions. It said this is the first sign of operational activity at the reactor, which is at the heart of North Korea's nuclear program since December 2018. The IAEA was expelled from the country by North Korean government in 2009, so it relies on satellite imagery to carry out assessments. Now, the Arab coalition says it has destroyed 3 explosive-laden drones launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels towards southern Saudi Arabia. In a statement, the coalition said the rebels attempted to target Khamis Mashhad city in the latest strike. The coalition said it is taking operational measures to foil attempts to target populated areas and civilian infrastructure in the kingdom. This comes a day after the Houthis killed at least 30 Yemeni soldiers in an airstrike on a military base. Yemeni President Abdur Rabbu Mansur Hadi said the rebels will pay the price for their attack on Al-Anad air base. Meanwhile, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas met with Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz in the West Bank to discuss security and economic situation. It is the first high-level meeting between the two sides in 10 years. Palestinian officials say the both sides discussed possible steps towards improving relations. Earlier, Israeli soldiers injured 18 Palestinians in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. The occupying forces attacked dozens of Palestinians as they peacefully marched east of Jabalia to protest the Israeli aggression. Meanwhile, the Israeli army has forced 2 Palestinian families to demolish their homes in the occupied East Jerusalem. Iran says any regional political and security arrangements can only be achieved with the participation of all regional states, including Syria. Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdul Hayyan made these remarks in a meeting with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in Damascus. Amir Abdul Hayyan said the presence of outsiders will not contribute to sustainable regional security and stability. He added Iran will continue to support Syria in fighting all kinds of terrorism, especially economic terrorism and its effects. Meanwhile, al-Assad said Iran's cooperation has led to positive achievements, especially in fighting terrorism. This comes a day after the Baghdad summit, where Iranian and Gulf Arab officials met. Also, Iran says the negotiations with Saudi Arabia will continue as the dispute between the two is not irresolvable. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Saeed Khatibzadeh said being neighbours, Tehran and Riyadh share the mutual interest in ensuring regional security. In a press briefing, he stressed that Iran has never refused to enter a dialogue with Saudi Arabia. On the talks for the revival of 2015 nuclear deal, Khatibzadeh said these negotiations will proceed by a governing consensus. He added, decisions will soon be made to determine whether these talks will be conducted by a foreign ministry or any other governing body. Now, New Zealand has reported the country's first death linked to the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. Meanwhile, India has registered more than 42,000 new infections and 380 deaths overnight. While globally the coronavirus death toll has surpassed 4.5 million, while the caseload has reached over 216 million. More about the pandemic in this report. The global COVID-19 cases and deaths continue to rise unabated. The approaching flu season has the potential to drive new COVID surges as nations scramble to intensify their vaccination campaigns. In the US, hospitals in parts of the South are running out of oxygen supply as infections and COVID-19 related hospitalizations continue soaring. Top American disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci has predicted an additional 100,000 deaths by December. Australia's most populous state, New South Wales, has reported a record rise in new cases as the nation struggles to contain the Indian Delta variant.
But we also know from the information we have, the accumulation of cases and also the number that are still unvaccinated, that October is likely to be our worst month in terms of pressure on the system, and that's why we're gearing up for that. We have been for nearly 2 years. Can I state again, our hospital system is under pressure. Will we need to do things differently? Of course we will.
Meanwhile, New Zealand has decided to keep its largest city, Auckland, under an alert level for lockdown for another 2 weeks. As the UK's latest COVID travel rules have come into force, people travelling to England from Canada and Denmark will not need to isolate. Over in Greece, police and anti-mandatory COVID-19 vaccine protesters clashed once again.
All these people gathered here are united as one against mandatory things. We do not want to be forced or people fired. Nothing more. Our country's freedom must remain high. Nothing more. They need to stop calling us anti-vaccine or deniers. There isn't anybody like that here. And even if is, are they a minority?
Meanwhile, a contaminant was found in Moderna's vaccine in Japan's Gunma prefecture as the latest such case. In Indonesia, after almost 18 months, children have restarted schools as the country, facing one of the worst global outbreaks, eases some restrictions. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, another 66 people have died of coronavirus over the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry says the nationwide tally of fatalities has jumped to 25,670. It said the positivity rate has increased to 6.75%, with 3,800 infections overnight. The ministry said over 93,000 cases are active, of which 5,612 are critical. Pakistan has registered over 1,156,000 cases since the pandemic began. Over 1,036,000 have recovered so far. More news coming up after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back now. French President Emmanuel Macron has finished a 2-day visit to Iraq, where he met regional leaders and authorities of Kurdistan region. Macron's trip to Iraq was aimed to support the regional dialogue and bring the hostilities to an end. French President also met French special forces involved in the ongoing fight against ISIS militants. Macron also visited Mosul's Al-Nouri mosque, which is restored after it was destroyed by the ISIS. The militants blew up the mosque in the final week of the US-backed Iraqi campaign that dislodged them from Mosul. Now, in the US, at least one person has died after Hurricane Ida slammed into Louisiana with 240 kilometers per hour winds. The storm has left over 1 million customers in Louisiana without power. President Joe Biden has declared a major disaster in the state. The country's National Hurricane Center says Ida has weakened to a Category 1 storm. Another tropical storm, Nora, has lashed the neighboring country, Mexico, leaving one person dead and several others missing. The storm resulted in torrential rains and strong winds, causing heavy floods and landslides in the country. US television actor Ed Asner, winner of a record 7 Emmy Awards, has died at the age 91. His publicist said Asner died of natural causes. He was famous for his role in the classic TV series The Mary Tyler Moore Show and Lou Grant. Asner was also known for his liberal politics and his criticism of US administration in 1980s over involvement in Central America. Asner was integral to the success of the situation comedy Mary Tyler Moore, which ran on CBS from 1970 to 1977. As part of the July 4th celebrations in the United States, contestants faced down and faced off in a key lime pie eating competition in Florida. Let's have a look.
Hands clasped behind their backs, 25 contestants plunged face down into 9-inch pies and participated in the World Key Lime Pie Eating Championship in Florida to mark the U.S. Independence Day. Seattle resident Nicholas Laura won the contest, finishing an entire pie in 2 minutes and 13.5 seconds.
You know, in New York, they got the hot dog contest, and that's great and all. But in Key West, we got the real contest. It's a speed eating round, face first, all one and done, key lime pie. I think that's where it's at.
Key lime pie is made with condensed milk, egg yolks, key lime juice, and a graham cracker crust. Because it is often served with layers of whipped cream on top, contestants have the option to wear goggles. They must, however, eat the pie without using their hands.
Now in Brazil, a cafe in Rio de Janeiro has combined cats and coffee for a cause. Customers can enjoy cat-shaped treats and even take one home. Details in this report. At the Gato Cafe in downtown Rio de Janeiro, coffee and tea are served with whiskers and a purr. In its pink-walled interior, customers can purchase lattes dusted with cat silhouettes and accompanied by paw-shaped biscuits while cats lounge lazily in an adjacent room.
Eu digo que eles são os melhores.
Cats are the best co-workers in the world. Just by entering the cat area, you can already perceive a different vibe. Firstly, cats have incredible energy. Secondly, I can say they give back everything that they get.
In addition to offering feline company, Gato Cafe, which opened last July, simultaneously functions as an adoption site for abandoned cats rescued by an organization called Bunker Whiskers.
When I got here and looked at this place, I couldn't even believe it existed. I am in paradise with all of these cats. I am in love with them. It feels like I am living in a dream full of kittens.
Cat cafes were first popularized in Asia, where they originated in Taiwan in 1998. Now, European stocks have inched higher as investors ride the wave of positive sentiment in Asia and overnight on the Wall Street. London's FTSE has gained the most so far, inching close to 0.5%. Frankfurt's DAX, the Pan-European Stock 600, CAC 40 in Paris and Italy's FTSE MIB have all edged up fractionally. Earlier, Asian stocks also made modest gains. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.